They told me I'd never be anything, that I was just a failure, a burden, someone who'd always live in the shadow of my perfect sister. But then, in that courtroom, when her whole life was hanging by a thread, the judge turned his head to me, blinked, and said in disbelief, "You're the governor?" Oh, you better believe it gets better from there. Before we dive into how it all happened, hit the like button and drop a comment if you've ever been underestimated. And don't subscribe to the channel if you're not ready for more jaw-dropping revenge stories like this one. My name is Rachel. I'm 34 years old now. For 27 years of my life, I was the nothing in the family. No one believed in me. My sister Jessica? She was the golden girl. And me? I was just the one they laughed at during family dinners. But here's how everything started. Long before I became the governor. Back when I was just 7, my dad used to call me the slow one. I wasn't bad at school, I just wasn't loud. I liked books. I liked puzzles. I didn't shine like Jessica did in cheerleading or school plays. She had shiny blonde hair and loud laughter that filled the whole room. She was good at making people like her, and that's what my parents loved. We lived in a dusty little estate called Maple Cross Ridge, just outside a small town where everyone knew everyone's business. My dad, Walter, worked at the local bank. My mom, Denise, ran a hair salon from our garage. Nothing fancy, but to them, Jessica was their golden ticket out of average life. They poured everything into her. Dance lessons, modeling school, drama camp. And me? Well, I got hand-me-downs, leftover birthday cake, and a daily reminder that I wasn't leadership material. Even in school, Jessica would make fun of me. "Rachel, you'll probably grow up to be a librarian or something. Maybe clean houses," she once said in front of the entire school bus. Everyone laughed, including the driver. It stuck with me. I got good grades. Quietly. I read books about government, law, leadership. I started writing essays and sending them to competitions, but never told anyone at home. What was the point? They wouldn't care. When I was 16, I got accepted into a youth leadership camp in D.C. It was a huge deal. Only 50 kids from across the country were selected. I ran home waving the letter, hoping maybe, just maybe, this time Mom and Dad would look at me like they did Jessica. Dad didn't even look up from his beer. "That's cute," he said, "but we don't have money for nonsense. Maybe next time, Ratch." But there was no next time. I cried that night. Jessica threw a pillow at me and told me to stop being dramatic. From that moment, I promised myself I'd find a way out. Not just out of the house, out of their version of who they thought I'd become. College was the first battle. They gave Jessica $25,000 to go to some fancy art school in New York. I asked for help applying to a local college. Mom said, "You should work first, figure out what you really want." So I did. I worked at a diner every night after school, cleaned motel rooms on weekends, applied for every scholarship I could find online. I got into a community college with a full ride, then transferred to a state university, graduated with honors in political science. But I still didn't tell them what I was doing. Jessica dropped out after a year and came home with a new boyfriend every 6 months. My parents still treated her like royalty. She worked as a makeup rep, did Instagram lives in our kitchen, called herself an influencer. By the time I was 25, I had moved out, got into law school, and interned at the mayor's office in a bigger city. Still, no one in my family called to say they were proud. Not once. The real shift started at age 28. I ran for local council. People laughed, mostly because I wasn't backed by money or family name. But I knocked on doors, helped fix potholes, stood in the rain handing out flyers. And I won. Not by much, but I won. I didn't even tell my family. Then came state representative. Then lieutenant governor. Still not a word from them, except the occasional birthday text that always somehow mentioned how Jessica was finally dating someone serious. Meanwhile, Jessica's life was spiraling. She got married at 30 to some hotshot real estate guy named Craig. The wedding was lavish. My invite came a week before the date with a note from Mom saying, "Hope you can find something nice to wear." I didn't go. 2 years later, Craig was caught in a fraud scandal. Jessica pretended she had no idea, but soon enough she was dragged into it. They had filed taxes together, owned businesses in both names. She was under investigation, and she was pregnant. I watched the news like everyone else. It wasn't joy I felt. It was something colder, something quieter, like a storm forming in the back of my mind. And then the day came. Court hearing. Jessica facing serious charges, wire fraud, tax evasion, false claims. I got a call the night before. It was my mom. "Rachel, I know we haven't talked in a while, but Jessica really needs help. She could go to jail. The judge might listen if someone respected spoke for her. Maybe you could talk to someone. Pull a string." I almost laughed. After all these years, now I was useful. I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. I just told her, "I'll see what I can do." The courtroom was packed. Cameras flashing. My parents were there, sitting in the second row, whispering to each other, eyes full of worry. Jessica stood beside her lawyer, trembling in a black dress that was too tight. And then I walked in, wearing a navy blue suit, heels that echoed through the marble floor, and a small American flag pin on my chest. People turned. Whispers started. I walked straight to the front row. That's when it happened. The judge, an older man with silver hair and sharp eyes, adjusted his glasses and looked straight at me. He paused, squinted, and then leaned forward. "Is that Governor Rachel Linwood?" My mother gasped. My dad's jaw dropped. Jessica's knees buckled slightly. I turned slowly to face them. My smile was calm, cold. The courtroom fell silent. But just as the judge's words settled into the room like thunder rolling across a stormy sky, Jessica fainted. She collapsed right there in front of the whole courtroom. And just like that, the whole place exploded into chaos. Paramedics rushed in. Jessica was flat on the floor, eyes closed, pale as a ghost. My mom screamed like she was in a horror movie. Dad stood frozen, looking around like he couldn't figure out how any of this was real. Cameras kept flashing. Reporters outside scrambled to get the scoop. The golden daughter had collapsed, and the nobody they once laughed at? She was the governor. The judge stood and banged his gavel. "Court will recess for 1 hour," he said, though everyone could tell he wanted more than an hour to process what had just happened. I didn't move from my seat. I didn't rush forward or pretend to help. I just sat there, legs crossed, hands calm in my lap, while everyone else panicked around me. Years of pain, rejection, and being ignored, it was all washing away in that moment, like dirt finally getting cleaned off after a lifetime. When they carried Jessica out on a stretcher, our eyes met for just 1 second. She was awake again, barely, but she saw me, really saw me, and she knew. That look in her eyes? Fear. The same fear I had when she locked me in the shed when I was 9 and told Mom it was an accident. The same fear I had when she tore up my college application because she didn't want me to leave home before her. That same look, except now she was the one cornered. My mother came up to me, holding her purse close to her chest like it was some kind of shield. "Rachel," she said, shaking, "why didn't you tell us?" I looked her dead in the eyes. "Because you never asked." She blinked like I had slapped her. Then she said something I'll never forget. "Well, you still have a duty to help your sister. You're in power now. You can fix this." I laughed, loudly, not politely. "You all treated me like trash for most of my life. You told me I'd never be anything. You laughed at me. You left me to figure everything out on my own. And now I owe you something." "She's your sister," she snapped. "No," I said. "She was your daughter. I was your afterthought." With that, I turned and walked away. Back in my hotel room, I sat down on the edge of the bed and let everything settle in. The weight of the past 27 years hit me all at once. I had climbed a mountain that no one ever thought I could even touch. And now I was standing on top, looking down at the people who had once kicked dust in my face. Still, deep inside, there was a small voice saying, "This isn't over yet." And it wasn't. The next morning, I got a call from the state's attorney's office. They wanted to know if I was connected to Jessica's case and whether I had anything to disclose. I told them I had no involvement and wouldn't be stepping in. I wasn't going to bend the rules for family. Not after everything. That same day, I received a letter. A formal request from Jessica's lawyer asking me to appear as a character witness in her trial. I stared at it for a full 10 minutes before placing it back in the envelope. And then I laughed again. They really didn't get it, but something told me the drama was just beginning. A few days passed. News outlets started digging into my family background. Old neighbors got interviewed. Some told stories about Jessica being a sweetheart, while others remembered her being cruel to kids in the neighborhood. A few even recalled how I used to walk home from the diner at night while Jessica got rides in her boyfriend's fancy cars. Then, one morning, I got a visit. It was Jessica. She showed up outside the governor's office in a hoodie and sunglasses, as if that would stop anyone from recognizing her. My assistant buzzed me. "Ma'am, there's a woman here. Says she's your sister?" I nodded. "Let her in." She walked in slowly, not with the high-heeled strut she used to have, but with the slow shuffle of someone who finally felt the world slipping from her grip. "Nice office," she muttered. I didn't answer. She sat down in front of me, twisting her fingers. "I didn't know you were doing all this," she said quietly. "I just thought you were, you know." "A failure," I offered. She looked away. "I need help, Rachel," she said. "They're going to charge me for things I didn't even do. I didn't know about the fake loans. Craig handled all the money. And you signed everything without reading it." I trusted him. I stared at her for a long, silent moment. "You never trusted me." "That was different. You were weird, quiet. You always made us feel like we didn't matter." I raised an eyebrow. I made you feel like you didn't matter?" She frowned. "I didn't mean it like that." "Then how did you mean it, Jess?" Silence. She sat there, shaking her leg, avoiding my eyes. "I don't know what you want me to say." I leaned back in my chair. "You don't have to say anything, but you need to understand something. I'm not going to save you from the consequences of your choices. You wouldn't do it for me. You didn't, actually." Her head dropped. "I know." She got up slowly. "Well, I guess I had to try." As she turned to leave, I said, "Jessica." She stopped. "If you're innocent, the truth will help you. If you're guilty, the truth will catch you." Then she left. The next week was quiet. Court hearings were postponed. News cycles moved on. I focused on my job, passing bills, meeting with mayors, working on school funding. But just when I thought maybe the worst was behind us, I got a call from a private investigator I had hired months ago for something unrelated. He said, "Governor, I think you're going to want to see this." "What is it?" "It's about your sister's husband and a property he transferred to your father's name." "What?" 3 days before his arrest, Craig moved 2 condos in Miami under Walter's name. That's money laundering, Rachel. Your dad could go down for this too. And just like that, everything changed again. My father, the man who mocked me for reading books, who said I'd never be a leader, who laughed when I told him I liked politics. He was now tangled in the same mess as the daughter he favored for 3 decades. And the worst part? He didn't even know it yet. I stared at the investigator's report in disbelief. 2 luxury condos in Miami, both valued over $400,000, transferred into my dad's name just 3 days before Jessica's husband was arrested. Clean on paper, dirty underneath. And my father, Walter Mitchell, the same man who once yelled at me for wasting time when I read the newspaper, was now sitting on a legal time bomb. I closed the folder slowly. My hands trembled, not out of fear, but from the storm of thoughts in my head. After all these years, karma wasn't just knocking, it was kicking the door down. I called the investigator back. "Does he know?" "Not yet," he said. "From what I gathered, Craig did this without telling him. Your dad probably thinks it's some kind of gift or investment." I exhaled. "How soon until the feds know?" "They already do," he said. "They just haven't moved yet. They're building a bigger case. Looks like Craig's fraud trail stretches across state lines." I hung up and leaned back in my chair. I thought of every Sunday dinner where my father told Jessica she was going to change the world, while I was left washing dishes. I thought of the night he refused to pick me up from school during a thunderstorm because governors don't raise whiners. Now here he was, possibly caught in a federal fraud case, and the daughter he disowned, she was the governor. The next day, I asked my driver to take a detour on the way home. We didn't head toward the governor's mansion. We turned left into an old neighborhood I hadn't visited in years. Creekside Grove. The streets still looked the same. Cracked sidewalks, kids riding old bikes, the air thick with barbecue and old stories. It was where I'd grown up. It was where they told me I'd never be anything. When we pulled up outside my parents' house, I saw Dad sitting on the porch in his usual lawn chair, wearing the same old denim cap and nursing a glass of iced tea like it was worth $1 million. He looked up, squinting. Then his face dropped. "Rachel?" he asked, standing up. I stepped out. He looked around awkwardly, like he wasn't sure whether to hug me or hide. "Well," he said, adjusting his belt. "Governor." "Dad," I replied. We stood there, silent. Cars passed slowly, some drivers rubbernecking when they recognized me. I ignored them. "I want to talk," I said. He gestured to the chair beside him. I didn't take it. I stayed standing. "Craig transferred 2 condos to your name," I said plainly. He blinked. "What?" "3 days before he got caught. Both are in your name now. The feds know." He swallowed hard. "But I didn't." "I know," I said. "You didn't ask for them, but you signed the papers. Or someone did for you." He rubbed his face. "I thought it was some kind of retirement gift. Craig told me he was investing in my future." "You didn't think to ask why?" He stared at the floor. "You and Mom always thought I was the one making poor decisions," I said. "But now, your perfect son-in-law might take you down with him." He looked up, eyes glassy. "What do I do?" "I've already spoken to the feds," I lied. "I asked them to hold off for now, but they want to talk to you. Soon." "Am I going to jail?" I shrugged. "Depends how honest you are, and how quickly you cooperate." He sat down hard in the chair, head in his hands. I didn't know. I watched him silently. No comfort, no sympathy, just the truth finally settling in. I turned to leave. "Rachel," he called out. I paused. "I'm sorry I didn't believe in you." I nodded, but didn't turn around. "I'm not the one who needed your belief," I said. "That girl you ignored? She believed in herself." The next few days were quiet but tense. Jessica's court date was drawing closer. Rumors swirled about the judge stepping down due to a conflict of interest after the courtroom drama from before. The public was eating it up. News sites ran headlines like, "Governor's Secret Identity Shocks Court," and asterisk, "When the black sheep becomes the leader." Asterisk. I stayed out of it. No interviews. No comments. Just work. But then came the knock. It was nearly midnight. I had just finished reviewing a school safety bill when my assistant buzzed me. "There's a woman here. She says it's urgent." "Who is it?" "Your mother." I closed my eyes. 5 minutes later, Mom was sitting in my office, wringing her hands like she was trying to wash off guilt. "I didn't know it had gotten this bad," she said softly. "With who? Jessica or Dad?" I asked. "Both." She looked at me, her face older than I remembered, tired in a way makeup couldn't fix. "I just wanted you girls to be close," she whispered. "I didn't think we were picking favorites." You weren't picking, I said. You crowned her queen and told me I should be thankful to be her servant. She flinched. We were scared of you, she finally admitted. Scared you'd leave us behind. I did, I said coldly. And I didn't even look back. She nodded slowly. But she's still your sister, Rachel. I stood up. She is. But not the kind I owe anything to. Before she could speak again, the door opened. It was my head of security. He looked pale. Governor, you need to see this. He handed me a tablet. The headline read, Breaking. Jessica Mitchell escapes house arrest, missing since morning. What? I whispered. I scrolled down. She had cut off her ankle monitor at 5:14 a.m., slipped past 2 officers and vanished. My mother gasped behind me. No. No, no, no. I stared at the screen. This wasn't just a case anymore. This was war. And Jessica? She had just made her move. I didn't sleep that night. Neither did half the state, apparently. The news of Jessica's escape exploded like wildfire. Every major channel ran the story. Reporters camped outside the governor's mansion like it was Hollywood. My phone buzzed nonstop. Press, security, even other governors checking in. By morning, I had a full task force on her case. But something told me Jessica hadn't just escaped. No, this was planned. She was always 2 steps ahead, or so she thought. I knew my sister. She wasn't running. She was trying to rewrite the story. I sat in the secure briefing room, listening as the state director of security mapped out Jessica's last movements. She left her phone behind, probably to throw us off. The ankle monitor was cut using a torch. High-grade stuff, not the kind you find in a garage. There was a black SUV waiting 2 blocks away. Traffic cam caught a blurry shot before it sped off. Plates? I asked. Swapped out. Fake. Someone helped her, I said flatly. No way she did this alone. He nodded. We believe Craig had contacts still loyal to him, possibly paid off. I leaned back. Have you talked to the judge? She's furious, but there's more. I raised my eyebrows. She filed a private complaint. Last week. Says Jessica tried to bribe her through a third party. Offered her $1,000,000 to make the charges disappear. Why wasn't I told about this sooner? Judge said she didn't want to stir political drama. Didn't know who else was involved. Great. So while I was signing school safety laws, my sister was out here playing mob boss. I left the briefing room with one mission: end this clean. Quietly. No cameras. No political speeches. Just justice. But when I returned to my office, something chilled me more than the report. There was a letter on my desk. No postage. No return name. Hand-delivered. I opened it slowly. Inside was a note, written in my sister's handwriting. If you think you've won, wait until the public hears what kind of governor you really are. Attached was a USB drive. I stared at it. My heart didn't race. My hands didn't shake. Because I knew this game. Jessica was desperate. But desperate people were dangerous. Still, I plugged it into a secure laptop. A video file popped up. I hit play. The screen was dark at first. Then it lit up to show me a recording from 2 years ago. I was in a heated argument with a senator who'd later been indicted for corruption. It was taken out of context, cut to make it seem like I was threatening him. I don't care what laws say. I'll bury this bill myself if you don't get in line. My voice snapped from the screen. I frowned. This was edited. My security chief nodded. That meeting was about a child labor loophole bill. You were trying to block it, but she clipped it to make you look like the corrupt one. Jessica wanted to ruin me. Not just run from justice. She wanted revenge. But here's what she forgot. I built my life from nothing. From cold school nights, secondhand clothes, and walking miles in the rain while she rode in Dad's new car. I earned every win, every vote, and no edited video could erase that. Still, I needed to control the story before she did. I called a press conference for that evening. Not about her. Not yet. Just a community event for small business recovery. Normal. Calm. Collected. Let her think I wasn't rattled. But she made her next move before I took the stage. As I stepped onto the podium, my phone vibrated in my coat pocket. I almost ignored it until I saw the name. Chief Judge Hansen. I picked up immediately and turned away from the cameras. "Governor Mitchell," she said in a low voice. "We have a situation." "What now?" "We got a hit on Jessica." "Where?" "She walked into my courtroom." "What?" "She's here." I blinked. "Alone?" "Not exactly. She brought her lawyer. She's demanding a hearing. Claims the arrest was unconstitutional, that she's here to surrender on her terms." My blood boiled. She escapes custody, evades the law, and now she wants a warm welcome back. "She wants you present," the judge continued. "In person. Or she walks out again." My fists clenched. "Let her." "She's gambling on optics," Judge Hansen warned. "If you show up guns blazing, she spins it into a sister vendetta. But if you don't show up, she claims persecution." I hung up without answering. I didn't have time for drama. I had to think like her. No, better than her. So an hour later I walked into that courthouse. Not in a fancy car. Not with a press team. Just me, a single aide, and 2 security officers dressed plain. When I entered the courtroom, Jessica was sitting there in full makeup, flawless like she just stepped out of a movie. The room gasped when I walked in. Phones buzzed. A few flashes went off. She turned around and smiled. "Nice of you to come, Rachel," she said, voice dripping with sugar. I said nothing. The judge glanced between us, then addressed the room. "We're here today to process the voluntary appearance of Jessica Mitchell, following her unlawful departure from house arrest. The accused has stated she wishes to speak before sentencing." Jessica stood up confidently. "I didn't run to avoid justice. I ran because I feared I wouldn't receive it," she said. She walked slowly toward the center of the room, eyes darting from the judge to the small audience. "My name is Jessica Mitchell, daughter of Walter and Donna Mitchell, sister of Governor Rachel Mitchell." Whispers spread like wildfire. She paused. "And today, I want the truth to come out about my sister, the real truth. Before you send me away." She turned and looked straight at me. I didn't flinch. She pulled out a folded piece of paper from her pocket and handed it to her lawyer. He cleared his throat and read aloud. "We submit formal evidence that Governor Rachel Mitchell, during her term as a state senator, manipulated judicial processes to advance her political career." Another wave of gasps. I locked eyes with her. She smiled. The judge sighed, clearly exhausted. "Governor Mitchell, do you wish to respond?" I rose slowly. "Yes, Your Honor," I said. Then I walked to the front of the room. Every eye followed. When I reached the bench, the judge leaned forward. Before I could speak, she raised a hand. And then it happened. A man entered the courtroom. Silver hair, dark suit, holding a file. The judge stood up. Everyone else did too. The room quieted. "Governor Mitchell," the man said, walking toward me. I nodded. He stopped, turned to the room, and said in a firm voice, "Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the interruption, but as per national law, we must pause these proceedings immediately." The judge frowned. "Why?" The man turned to the bench. "Because the accused, Jessica Mitchell, is also under federal investigation and under federal custody as of this moment." The courtroom exploded into noise. Jessica's face went white. Her lawyer looked like he might faint. And I stayed calm, because finally, she wasn't just facing me anymore. She was facing the country. The courtroom descended into chaos. Reporters yelled over each other as the federal agent held up his badge. Camera phones were raised, trying to capture the moment. Security rushed forward. Jessica spun around, confused, eyes wild with panic. "What is this?" she shouted. "You can't take me." The federal agent didn't flinch. "You're under investigation for conspiracy, fraud, obstruction of justice, and bribery of a federal officer." Jessica stepped back like the words slapped her. "That's a lie. I didn't bribe anyone." Her lawyer leaned in and whispered something urgently, but she slapped his hand away and pointed at me. "This is her doing. This is all Rachel's plan. She's using the government to crush me." People gasped. Phones flashed. I kept my eyes locked on her, but didn't say a word. I wanted to. Oh, I wanted to scream the truth. Tell everyone about the years she spent trying to tear me down. The lies, the manipulation, the fake smiles at family gatherings while whispering about me behind my back. But I didn't, because I didn't need to. The truth was finally doing its own work. Jessica fought all the way out of that courtroom, screaming, crying, blaming. They cuffed her gently but firmly, walking her past rows of people who once admired her. Some shook their heads. Others turned their backs. The moment the doors closed behind her, the judge turned to me. "Governor Mitchell, I believe this hearing is over." I nodded once. "Thank you." As I stepped outside, the crowd outside exploded. Microphones in my face. People screaming questions. "Governor, did you know your sister was under federal investigation? Was this politically motivated? Do you still support your family?" I raised my hand and said the only thing I could. "My focus remains on serving the state with honor and transparency. I won't be answering questions about ongoing investigations. Thank you." And then I got in the car. Silence. My aide stared at me in awe. "That was insane." "Yeah," I muttered, rubbing my temple. "That's one word for it." We drove off toward the governor's mansion. But instead of peace, I felt something else. Unfinished business. Because Jessica's letter still sat in my desk drawer. Her threats weren't empty. And the video she doctored had already made its way online. By the time I got home, hashtags were trending. #hashtag fake governor. #hashtag sister versus sister. #hashtag family fraud. Some called it a conspiracy. Others believed her. The video, edited or not, was catching fire. I poured a glass of water and stood in front of the big living room window, looking out at the street below. All my life, I had fought so hard to be seen, to be heard, to be taken seriously. And now all it took was one twisted lie from someone I once shared bunk beds with to make people doubt me. The next morning, I called a private meeting with my team. No press, no notes, just us. "I'm not going to run from this," I said, voice steady. "She wants to ruin my name, fine. But I will not let her take my legacy." My chief of staff looked concerned. "What are you planning?" "I'm going to release everything," I said. "My records, emails, notes from that senator meeting 2 years ago. Let the public see the full picture." They exchanged looks. "But what if it backfires?" one of them asked. "Even honest things can get twisted online. I'd rather go down telling the truth than survive by hiding it." Silence. Then my head of communications spoke. "There's another way." I raised an eyebrow. He leaned forward. "We go on offense." "What do you mean?" "Expose Jessica's full record. Everything. Not just the escape. Her past fraud cases. The way she got that apartment in Belmont Terrace using a fake lease, even her college suspension. People forgot about that. It's all public record. We remind them who she really is." Belmont Terrace. The memory hit me hard. That was the apartment she got with our cousin's name on the paperwork. I didn't even know she had gotten away with that one. I paused. "No," I said slowly. "We're not turning this into a war. But we don't need mud to win. We need sunlight." I stood up. "Get everything verified. Truth only. No spin. No rumors." They nodded, impressed. "Governor," my aide said as I walked out, "this could be a defining moment." "It already is," I replied. And I meant it. That afternoon, I held a state address. Not a press conference. Not a debate. Just me at the podium, broadcasted live. I told the full story. How I had come from nothing. How Jessica had drifted away from the family, then returned only when there was something to take. I admitted that I'd said some harsh words in the past, out of passion, out of duty, but I had never used my office for personal gain. I became governor to serve people who felt unseen, because I used to be one of them. If standing up for kids, for workers, and for justice makes me a target, then so be it. I will not apologize for the truth. The applause was louder than I expected. Even in my darkest moment, people still believed in me. But Jessica wasn't finished, because just 3 days later a new story broke. A leak. Someone had released private emails between me and a former lobbyist, completely out of context. The headline made it look like I had taken money in exchange for helping pass a business tax bill. I hadn't, but the timing was poison. My approval rating dropped. The media flipped. Now I was the villain again. People in my own cabinet started doubting me. Whispers of resignation floated through the hallways. That night, I sat alone in my office, lights off, the hum of the city outside. My phone buzzed. It was a blocked number. I let it ring twice before answering. A voice I hadn't heard in years came through. It was my father. "I saw the news," he said quietly. I didn't say anything. He continued, "You holding up?" I swallowed. Barely. "You know, I never thought you'd make it this far," he said. "Not because I didn't believe in you, but because this world eats people like you alive." I closed my eyes. "You always had more heart than all of us combined. That's why Jessica hates you so much." I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. He went on. "She can't stand that people love you, that they trust you. It eats her up. Don't let her win." Then he hung up. I sat there, staring at the phone. And in that moment, I made a decision. This wasn't just about my name anymore. It was about truth and redemption. The next day, I requested an emergency hearing. Public. Televised. I was going to testify under oath. Clear my name. And whatever came next, I'd face it. But what I didn't know was that Jessica had one last move. Because the night before the hearing, a strange package arrived at the governor's mansion. No name, no label. Security scanned it. No explosives, no toxins. Just a single hard drive. When they plugged it in, they found a video. Jessica again. But this time she wasn't yelling. She was calm. Deadly calm. The message was short. "I warned you. Now the whole country is going to know what kind of little girl you used to be." My blood ran cold. Because she wasn't talking about politics anymore. She was going after my past. Something I'd buried a long, long time ago. And I had no idea what she planned to reveal next. I barely slept that night. Jessica's message played over and over in my mind like a looping nightmare. Now the whole country is going to know what kind of little girl you used to be. What did she mean? What exactly had she dug up? And more importantly, how? I paced my bedroom floor until the sun started to rise over the trees beyond the governor's mansion. It was quiet, too quiet, the kind of silence that made your stomach twist. When my aide knocked at the door around 6 a.m., I was already dressed, seated at the edge of my bed with the hard drive sitting on my lap like a live bomb. "We've reviewed the footage," she said, her voice tight. "You need to see it." We walked into the secure communications room. The lights were low. My communications chief, the cybersecurity director, and my legal counsel were all there. One of them hit play. At first, it looked like nothing. Just grainy security footage from a small-town grocery store, probably 20 years old. And then I saw her. Me. 12 years old. Backpack slung over one shoulder, hair in braids, nervous eyes scanning the aisle. Then I watched as little me slipped a can of soup into her coat pocket. My heart dropped. The screen cut to another video. This one was even worse. It was the footage from my middle school. I was in the principal's office, crying, saying I didn't mean to do it, that I was hungry. That mom hadn't come home the night before. that there wasn't anything in the fridge. It kept going. Footage, files, notes, interviews, my juvenile records, records that had been sealed. Jessica had somehow gotten them, and now she was going to leak them to the public. All of it was from when I was a kid, a desperate, scared kid. And now she wanted to use it to ruin me. This is low, one of my aides said, disgusted. She's using your childhood trauma as a weapon. Can we stop the leak? I asked. We've already flagged the platforms. But once it's out, my cybersecurity lead said. You've got maybe 12 hours before this hits the news. I leaned back in the chair, took a deep breath, and closed my eyes. This was it, the final move in Jessica's plan. Destroy the public's image of me. Not as a politician, not as a sister, but as a person. Make them believe I was always a thief, that I just got better at hiding it. I had two choices: stay silent and hope people moved on, or face it head on. By noon, I made my decision. I called a press conference. It was held on the Capitol lawn. Cameras lined up. Reporters whispered. The rumor had already spread, like wildfire online. The video clips were being shared with laughing emojis, dramatic music overlays, and sarcastic hashtags. I stepped up to the podium, heart racing, but voice steady. I was 12 years old the first time I stole something. A wave of murmurs broke out across the crowd. I was hungry. My mom had disappeared for 3 days. My little brother was crying at home. And the only thing in the house was a moldy loaf of bread and half a bottle of ketchup. I took a can of soup from the corner store. I got caught. Silence. I was taken to the police station. Not because they wanted to punish me, but because they didn't know where my mother was either. The state took custody of me that night. I paused. I'm not proud of what I did, but I'm not ashamed either. That moment taught me the difference between survival and crime. It taught me the meaning of shame and how to turn it into fuel. That 12-year-old girl, she's the reason I became governor, because no child in this state should ever have to steal to eat. The crowd didn't clap at first, just silence. Then a single voice from the back shouted, "We love you, Rachel!" And then the applause came, louder than I expected, fiercer than I'd hoped. I walked off that podium not as a politician trying to save face, but as a woman who refused to be defined by her past. But the battle wasn't over. Jessica was now facing 5 federal charges. Her trial was set to begin in 2 months. I hadn't spoken to her since that day in court, until I got the letter. It came in a plain white envelope, slipped under the mansion door one rainy morning. No address, no return label, just my name. Inside was a handwritten note. You win, but you'll never be clean. People will always remember what I showed them. Jay. I stared at it for a long time. Then I grabbed a pen and wrote one sentence on the back of the page. They'll remember that I told the truth. That's more than you'll ever have. I never sent it. Instead, I burned it in the fireplace. Because this wasn't about her anymore. It was about me. About rising. A month later, I stood on the Capitol steps again, this time surrounded by a group of kids from low-income homes, launching a new statewide hunger prevention bill. I looked into the eyes of a young girl with her hair in braids, clutching her backpack like a lifeline, and I saw myself. I smiled. Let's get to work. Because in the end, the revenge wasn't in ruining Jessica. It was in surviving her and becoming something she never expected. Not just governor, not just a survivor, but a story that reminded people. No matter what they say, no matter where you come from, the truth will always shine through. And your past? It doesn't make you. It prepares you.